Yeah, yeah. So you just
Good
drink a
one.
lot on Sunday, sleep on the street, and then go to work
And I
straight.
heard something. I heard that in Japan there's like a culture that if you go to drink with your boss or someone that is higher up in the hierarchy, if he
Yeah.
starts to drink, you cannot stop until he stops. So you must drink the same as your boss. They have like this culture. I don't know.
Imagine competing like drinking with a guy that has more money than you. I think it would
Yeah.
suck.
Yes, that doesn't sound very good.
I am imagining the situation you are drinking and you are so drunk on the street and oh my God, I need to go to job tomorrow and you look to side your boss is drunk
Sleeping next to you.
He's with
beside
you.
you. Oh, no problem. Let's
No,
chill
it's
again.
secret.
He's
Here,
looking at you and saying like, I know you're late. You know.
but
You
in
cannot have an
Brazil,
excuse.
when you have the firm party, we can face the same, you know. You are drinking a lot, and your boss arrives, and oh, you are drinking too. Let's take this good moment together.
That's the thing about the Japanese work culture, but that's another thing that I was gonna touch on because I feel like we're so stuck to exclusively what social media is portraying to us that it's really hard to imagine a different lifestyle some people could follow. So you'll always see Japan as a very workaholic type of environment. You see it as a very kind people, which, in general, that's their stereotype. But it's really hard to picture a party scene there or any other types of lifestyles that could be happening in the country when the only vision that we have as outsiders is pretty much what they're portraying to us. Um, but I've heard that nightlife can get pretty crazy there. I wonder what they think of us. We do have this stereotype of them as workaholics. And I'm like, you know, that takes me back to another time where people were asking me about Brazil. That's when I was like 16 or 17. I was an exchange student. They were like, "Are there cars in Brazil?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, like, do you live in the Amazon?" And like, they didn't even ask, uh, like, they didn't mean to be mean. They genuinely didn't know. All they knew about Brazil was Rio and the Amazon forest. And I feel like that's what happens to a lot of other countries for us too. So it's really interesting. That's why I really want to travel the world so I can get to know everything and everyone.
You also had a recent story with a Japanese guy, right? Gus, about Latinos as well.
Yeah, I went out with this Japanese friend last Sunday, and I got to the place like 20 minutes early, and I was waiting for him. Hey, are you coming? And then when he got there, he told me, "Hey, you don't seem to be Latino." And I initially thought he was talking about my looks, but it doesn't make sense. He said, like, you showed up, and you invited me out to something, and you showed up. You didn't cancel like an hour before. You didn't just pretended that you wanted to hang out, and you didn't. That's quite a reputation that we have, right? I thought it was just
In
Brazilians.
in
Yeah,
Portugal,
are
they
you
asked my
Brazilian?
girlfriend if she knew how to use a ruler, and
Whoa.
if we had square rulers in Brazil. Like
What the
it
type
was
of
not like
question?
I think the square ruler question was not mean, not to be mean. Like, oh, you guys might have another way of measuring things, but like, do you know how to use a ruler?
What's a ruler, guys? Sorry.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
uh,
Someone who doesn't know. Right.
Not a ruler. Something that
Like
you
that
take
little piece of
measurements.
plastic that with markings for centimeters and millimeters
Oh, okay. I see.
or
That you use
inches.
in school.
and
Oh my
the
God.
square ruler is the one that looks like a nail. You know.
I see.
Last time that I went to the US, there's this kid, amazing kid, by the way. He's just naive. His name is Derek, and he asked me because I said, "Oh, there's a McDonald's right next to my house in Brazil." He was like, "Do you guys have McDonald's?"
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
When I went to
pretty.
Sao Paulo, I heard the same things from Maranhão, so I cannot complain. I went to Sao Paulo and they asked if there was water here.
Yeah, it's when I was a kid, I think 7, 8, 9 years old. My family moved out of Brasilia to São Luís, and I all the time think, oh my God, now I will live in a back country, like I don't know how can I say this in English, but it's like sertão, if exists the word to translate this. But even
In the
we
sertão.
Brazilian people think like this, so obviously the other people will think things like that about us, right?
Yeah. For example, here, when I have some meetings with my technical leader, he's an Indian guy. When we speak about the holidays that we have here and all the stuff that we used to do under our holidays, I just mentioned to him, for example, we're going to have Christmas here, and when he mentioned that on Christmas they have another holiday to celebrate, he just start to, whoa, what do you do on Christmas? Because here on India we used to just group our family and we have some praise and we have some time. When I mention about all the stuff that we do here in Brazil, he mentioned that, oh, the only thing that I know about Brazil is the carnival, you know, because you all you I think most of you guys did like samba, and I am huge fan from Flamengo. When he told me that, oh, did you know Flamengo? That's nice. But most of them, they have a different approach to maybe celebrate their holidays, right? So this is why it sound made weird for them.
Man, my linear algebra teacher there, he was like a beautiful person, man. Like he was really nice, and his only experience like with Brazil was when they had a program that they uh, exchanged the professors. So some Portuguese professors went to Brazil and vice versa, and they put the guy on Rocinha, so you can already imagine the image the guy had with from Brazil. And I think there were 3 Brazilians at my class, like the first ones at the university there that he taught, and he said, "Are you guys having trouble understanding documents?" And we were like, "No, we know how to read. We know what like a passport is." And he's like, "Oh, okay, because I know it's hard to get one there, right?" And we were like, "Yes, it's hard." But he
Yeah,
would ask like this kind of stuff, like just, "Oh, are you guys having trouble with like bathroom related activities?" And we're like, "No, man, we're not."
Did you have lunch today? Like, are you okay? Like,
Yeah, do you know how to cook meat or something?
yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, we are not innocent in this story, right? Like as Jason mentioned, within Brazil, we have the same kind of prejudice. And also, you wouldn't be able to tell much about these other countries as well. Like, what do you know about India? Besides, like,
Traffic jams.
yeah. So,
Crazy foods.
Crazy foods. And maybe some healthy
Many
problems, I
people.
would say.
yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
First thing when I think of India, and I think there's like that is a prejudice. I think of people like taking baths in the rivers, and I think
Yeah.
that's a prejudice, right? I don't think it's exactly like that right there.
I mean, it could be, but it's just one very specific location, you know?
Exactly.
And then, like, it's so big and there's so many languages, so many cultures, so many things they do differently as well within the country, different accents and everything else. But, like, I think these images that we think of them, actually, we think of them innocently, right? Like, okay, India is like this, for sure. But then when they see us saying those things, probably they think, they feel the same way of like as if they were talking about samba or carnival or something like this, like very superficial things.
Yeah. For example, here on my team, I think we are 15 engineers. Most of them are from India. When I just speaking with one of them, I just asked for him, what is the language that you used to have on India? He just told me, man, we have a lot of language here. So we don't have just one here. For example, in Brazil, you guys have Portuguese, right? And most of you speak in English and Spanish as well. But here on India, we speak a lot of language, like French. They have, I think they are more familiar with French as well, but most of them speak very well English. So uh, this kind of uh, surprised me because I thought that when we start working with Indian guys, they have more jargons and some fast speaking, but they speaking well. This surprised me because most of the times that I have, for example, some pair programmings and some meetings, I'm able to understand everything that they told to me.
This is cool.
I heard about that in India. They have like a main dialect, like a language, right? And not everyone knows about it. It's like they use this to make things in laws and constitutions, and not everyone it can understand to uh, discuss about it. This is very a crazy thing if you think well.
Man, I had Costa also, but we had a boss. His name was Hari, and he was telling us how it is like SAT or ENEM there, the equivalent, and it's borderline impossible to get into some universities there. Like I would say that even the math, like the biggest math campus there, is better than like the MIT because the competition is huge. It's like to the point where people cheating on the test will still fail.
Wow.
So
Yeah, it's insane. Dude, imagine that you're doing NA. And then we're talking about Brazil, we're talking about like 200 million people. India is at least 1 billion. A billion. And that's a lot of people to compete for like a single place in the university. And also there's the fact that they also have like a economy that's not that great, just like Brazil. But also there's the thing that in India, English is a preeminent language, and Google, Microsoft, they are all in that place. So if you manage to get a good position in a university, that means you're going to Google or Microsoft. It means you're gonna get a lot of money, like really get rich, like the levels of India. So like it's a game changer to going into one of the bigs, and everyone's looking to that. So it's borderline insane, just like Victor says. If you see like a India guy in Uber, for example, and he's one of like a distinguished engineer, he probably like faced insane competition level.
yeah, and I think he mentioned that the city that he was in was like considered like a developed city there, but like on the countryside, if you search on the internet, you will find that there was people crawling on the school building to give answers to people, and still those people wouldn't pass because someone actually knew the answers, finished first, and got more questions correct than you, cheating. So that's the level of competition there. It's
It's
absurd.
borderline insane. Yes. I personally am not a big fan into like that big of a competition. So F sharp, which is the language that I use, don't have as many developers, but it means as well that if I see an F sharp position, I'm probably sure that's gonna be less than 50 guys applying for that position.
Exactly.
That's a good strategy.
But one good thing when I start to work with them, the first meeting that I have with my technical leader, he just mentioned to me, hey, Gustavo, I know that English is not your fluent language, so be calm. If I don't understand you, I will ask you again. So don't worry, because English is not my fluent English as well. So this makes me feel more confident when I speak with them, because imagine that you don't speak English and you're starting with a different team, you know. It was
Right. And
a big challenge, but that's
and
awesome.
we have this thing as well about like Brazilians, at least Brazilians for me, they seem to stress a lot to speak English very fluently. And when I'm talking to an India guy, it sounds like he doesn't give a shit if I'm not understanding him. He just speak and he's like, okay, you gotta understand me. I speak English. If I have an accent or not, that's your problem. It's gonna do it.
That's a matter of
Just
like
go for
bilingual
yourself.
culture, because in Brazil we don't have a bilingual culture yet, and we don't recognize the Brazilian English. So like we do actually, but it's a growing phenomenon. So we usually are kind of forced to choose either British or American, and then we are brainwashed into believing that we should copy them perfectly.
Yeah.
And then while the Japanese and the Indian Arabic, so like, okay, I will speak English, but in my realm of like phonetic
Because that's
possibility.
how I learned, right?
Oh, that's a
Also,
good
something
point. Never thought about it. About like having a single language would influence that. That's a good
does a
point.
lot. Another thing as well that I was talking last meeting that I had with an India guy, I asked him like about Hindi and like if you know English and Hindi, you're okay to travel across India. He said, "Oh, yes." Because like there's a side of India that pretty much everyone knows English. There's a side everyone knows Hindi. But he was pointing to the fact that I didn't know about that. He said, "Wow, be careful when choosing an Hindi professor online because not even Indians agree what's the right way to pronounce some words in Hindi. So it's not even it's so many people that sometimes you have like sub dialects of Hindi and the same word can mean different things and have different pronunciations inside India."
Well, in Brazil, we have some vocabulary location, like gíria, like expression, pain, and some places these no make sense, but we have one language, so it's more easy. But in the Africa, India, imagine this situation. In your country, have people speaking in a language you don't understand.
Yeah. I just learned last
You
week
guys
that in
know that
São
we
Paulo,
speak.
oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Did you guys know that Brazil has over 200 languages?
No idea.
No
Yeah.
clue.
Brazil has over
Probably
200 languages, but only one of them is official, and we like speak it.
Would
probably
you know
one of
the?
most of them
Oh,
are native languages, right?
All of them actually. I mean, the
Two
other
two
one.
of them actually goes are official. There's the sign language as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Uh, in Brazil, last week I just learned that in São Paulo, people call you cachorro for whatever reason, and that's insane to me.
we usually degrade you before asking
Yeah,
something.
and in the US, today I learned as well. They whenever they want to call you naive, depending of the neighbor, of course, they can call you bird, like cuz bird. It's like you're a naive guy, you're dumb, you're not like Black Hood.
Oh,
Didn't know
There's
that.
a channel of a guy that he's like specializing to translating black neighborhoods slangs, and I love this guy.
share with us.
Gonna send to you. His name is Hood Translator, I think.
I think most of you guys already heard about the Gringo Dictionary, right? They have a lot of good slangs there.
Yeah. I did something like them for a while in my old profile on Instagram. I would illustrate and translate into English expressions from Maranhão, which is our state. And like many of them went viral. It was quite fun.
And
How
it's
do you?
funny because my girlfriend has a really hard time understanding my family that is from Paraíba, and they don't even use that much slangs. just by the accent and the speed that they talk, she would ask me like at least 5 times a day, "What did they say? Can you repeat to me?" And it's not even like that different, right? Because
From
it doesn't
Portugal?
contain slangs, but
Where's
it's
she from?
hard. São Paulo.
Oh, maybe a show from Portugal will be easier because like uh you 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 are from there as well, from Paraíba?
No, but I'm the first one from here, from São Paulo. So
Oh, I see.
basically
Because like
Paraibano. So.
because their accent is closer to the Portuguese accent in the sense of the ters and ders mainly, like uh, while other accents like say ch and j much more often.
Yeah, and the countryside, they because my family, the whole family comes from like a really really small city, so they
Mm.
kept the accent as it was. And they have this thing where they usually say the word cut in half, so I
Mhm.
think that makes it worse.
So guys, I share with you in the chat a very funny situation when we see two cultures um,
I
get
love this video.
relations. This is very very fun. A Mexican guy talking with the interviewer, the reporter, and says, "Oh, so no, 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 nigger," and two black guys behind him. What you said, nigger? What? I'm metro carajo. Pega, brother. You go ahead. Very
Like,
funny.
yeah, the two black guys go to him and kind of like put him in the wall, and he was like, "Oh, I'm a minority as well. You can give me a card, like any card."
And then like
And then, yeah, you get it. You're Mexican, you get one.
okay,
Very funny.
any pass, right? They say.
Any pass, yes.
Yeah.
I once saw a video of them like saying white people that would get any pass, any word pass. I remember that most of them said Eminem had one, so no one would bother if Eminem was.
N-word pass, do you say?
Yeah, N pass,
Or N-word?
N word pass.
Um, how did this conversation begin? Because like,
Oh, it is.
Victor just proposed this conversation because we brought you here today to talk about something that you love. Do you want to change the topic or just want to?
No, just go with it. Don't worry.
Okay.
I think the people are having fun.
Cool.
But by the way, what do you love? What did you choose as a topic?
Oh, I would speak about an obsession of mine, which is basically software rotting with time.
What? What is
I don't-
that?
Let's get into
Uh,
that. Sounds like a fun topic.
No, it doesn't
well,
sound, but it's interesting. It sounds interesting.
yeah,
Doesn't
that's
sound fun.
debatable, but yeah. So basically, it started when I was on the first year of high school. Uh, I was a huge user of Google Reader. Not sure if someone here ever used that, but it was if you didn't, it was basically a website that you put a blog or something, and it would show new articles or news about the blog, like Gmail would, basically that. And it was nice to basically have a one place to read everything you wanted and you
It
had
was like those
interested.
like RSS, something like this.
Yes, exactly. So when I was in high school, I was from the oh man, I forgot the term, but that group of students that basically organize things on the at school, and we used that a lot to produce content. Right, we had a huge one that we shared and all of that, and then Google basically abandoned the thing, as usual, as all their services. And since then I lost all the content that was there that I really liked to read, and there is no real alternative, right? Because well, you can compete with Google and content. And ever since I have this obsession of making software that wouldn't rot like that, Uh, Basically, all that data is gone now. You basically can't have it back, and all of that. So, uh, how I would start this topic? That's quite hard. So, given this introduction of losing data that you actually uh, put a lot of value in, I started messing around with things, and I got you, as Gustavo mentioned, RSS, which is basically a specification for, they call it syndication. So let's say you have a website or anything really, and you want to broadcast changes. You can have this XML file, which is basically a file with some fields, and you say, uh, I don't know, this is the title of this change. It happened this time. This is the content of it. And these are some other metadata if you want. So let's say you have a service that you hired and you want to know when they go into maintenance or when they are going to deliver a new feature and all of that. They can use RSS to broadcast that, and you can use whatever you want to read it. And this is a good thing, in my opinion, because you have a standard. It's actually a specification how it should work, and you can use whatever client you want to read it. So if you want to read on your phone, or if you want it like on your email, or even if you want to build your own, you can just follow the specification and build it. And in that way, you wouldn't lose anything at all because the service stopped. So anyway, after some time, I started writing some content on the internet. I think 2017, I started a blog on Medium. I think you guys have heard about it. It was a really nice platform when it started, but by the time they started closing the doors, so you wanted to modify the images on your blog posts. Well, now you have to go through each event of it. And well, if you have a lot of articles, you can see how this is time demanding. You couldn't have 30 party clients. So if you wanted to read on your phone, you would have to use their app. If you wanted to read on the web, you would have to use their website. And I think that's kind of bad for basically consuming content or even broadcasting your own content, because you lose control of it. And it reached to a point that I couldn't even export my articles. So people would email me complaining, "Oh, I can't read your articles because I didn't pay Medium." And I'm not saying they should do it for free, but they should let me export that. And so you don't have a format for your article, and then that's more data you lost. So by the time uh, I reached like 2 years from Google Reader death, I lost the blogs I liked to read. I lost all the categories I made. I lost the content I wrote, and I also lost the images that I posted. So that's quite a thing that I lost, like 4 years of content by trusting platforms instead of specifications. And after all of this, it became kind of a obsession. So I started contributing on open source of software that tries to avoid that. Let's say you have Miniflux as a RSS reader, so you can basically just put the websites there. It will keep getting updates and sending to you. You can make accounts for your friends and all of that, and it's all stored on your database, and you can do whatever you want with it. But it doesn't stop there, right? Because let's say you wrote your articles, you published the article, but the bridge between writing it and publishing it has software in it that can also rot, right? So I don't know if people here have experience with Node and Python for a long time, But if you coded for more than 2 years, you probably had problems with dependencies. You wrote some code, and 2 years after, you cannot run it, which is also a problem. And it sucks because, I mean, the software already does whatever it should do, but it doesn't run. And the way I tried to solve this is by using Go. I don't really like the language, but the thing is, they have this backwards compatibility thing on the language specification. So it's specified. You can have multiple implementations. You have GCC implementing a Go front end, so you can compile Go without the Go compiler, the main implementation. And I think I have code that I wrote in 2018 with Go, which was 5 years ago, and they just compile as fine, just like they did. So that's another way that I think we could avoid the software rotting. And then this became a kind of obsession with me. All of my engineering knowledge came from it. So even at the company, I try to do things in the most standard way, even if they are more, if they are harder to get to work than like the current trend. You would say, oh, if you use this database, it would be easier. If you use that tool, it would be easier. But would it be easier to reconstruct what I built from scratch? Probably not. So that's basically my take on engineering that I try to follow. All of that because a website died. So uh, yeah, so basically for the past 6 years, I've been obsessing with it. It really influenced how I write software, how I interact with a computer, and also how I make others interact with it because I write the software they use. uh, I try to make it as easy as possible for people to own their own data or to own their own computer by allowing plugins on my software, extensions, and all of that. So that's basically the subject. I'm not sure if anyone here ever thought about it. Probably not, right? But I think it's a good aspect to think about engineering, how to make software last longer, and how to extend the software to uh, abide to the needs of the user and not the other way around.
That topic as well, we can make the point of like people always, at least in my career, I always heard people say that Java would die, PHP will die, and I still to this day see people getting jobs in it.
Yeah,
And they're pretty
yeah.
good. They pay a lot.
Yeah, and PHP is also done. It's not actually like it's not the main goal to make all code in PHP run forever, but it's more of a consequence of what they do, right? They think more of what you need to build stuff than what is the correct way of doing software, right? So I think that the most ambitious project that I have related to this uh, would be I have a kind of archival tool that I'm building with SQLite, which is also a good format. Basically, the most used database ever. Uh, I'm basically building a tool that would be able to archive things for me in a format that you can extract. So from RSS to email to whatever you want, and you would be able to just plug in tools to feed that and do whatever you want. I don't know.
Cool.
Uh,
Gustavo, you have a recommendation, right, of a book?
Yeah, I would ask you, like, can you expand on what the like some tips the book gives about this?
Yeah, for example, they made some tips like avoiding some necessary complexities when you are trying to create a method, for example, and they recommended to avoid of having like how can I say, is more a kind of abbreviation methods and some abbreviation variables as well. They recommended to have more clear and understandable naming for each of them, and they have a lot of tips about how to start a project, and I think it's more related to how we build software than a language, you know. So it's always good to we have these heuristics with us because sometimes we are just familiar with the language and the framework itself, but it's more a kind of how we build software, you know. So this is a great read. I just finishing this read. I started from the clean code from Martin Fowler and the forward with the other ones. And when I reach on this series, I became I became it how can I say, excited with what they are bringing to us because as a software engineer, I know that we have experience and building code, but sometimes when we are familiar with a language, we forgot about follow some good standards and good heuristics, you know. So it's a good recommendation, I would say. I received it from my second technical leader, and just for now, I started reading it. So
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing that I'm not sure if someone here has ever coded in C, but well, I don't like it. But I think one of the things that it got correct, which is I would say it's kind of a hot take, it's the header file. So in C, you have a file that has a an extension with .h, which is a header file, and on this header file, you basically define the signature of everything on your code. So you can basically define, oh, this function is going to receive this and that. This function is not going to receive anything. I have these macros and all of that. And then on your .c file, which is your actual code, you implement that signature. So I think this is kind of tiresome to work with because you have to keep importing these H files everywhere. It's really tiresome, but I think this makes for a good code design because before you actually implement something, you will have to think on how people will use it. So it's not you can't really just make band-aid code all together. Just, oh, I'm going to create this function. Oh, it's too big. Let's create another one and blah 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 blah. You can't because your signature is the only accessible thing on your code. People that will use your library or even your code will only be able to access whatever is on the header file. And I think this applies greatly to what you said, which is you will have to make things as composable as possible and as descriptive as possible because that's the only thing people see. They don't see what you actually wrote to make the code work. And that's a great way to build software, in my opinion. I would well I'm uh, I don't know. I have been using Emacs for a long time, right? But I
oh,
also think that it's the I'm not like saying that it's the best editor or anything like that. I think it's far from that, but uh, I think that the thing that keeps it alive it's because it's extensible. So you have Emacs, you open that editor, and you say, "Man, this is ugly. This is hard to use. This is awful." And slow, but it's absolutely extensible. Everything is accessible through code, and you can change whatever you want. And I think that's why, even though like VS Code, IntelliJ has like tens of thousands of user more than Emacs, I think that's the reason that Emacs wouldn't die ever because people can just adapt it to do whatever they want. And and I think that's how a computer should be, and how software should be in general. And also the reason that the browser, I think, doesn't die, because you can just extend it for or whatever you want with JavaScript. It's the same thing.
Exactly. For example, you mentioned a good thing. For example, most of the editors that we had, they don't have a friendly interface, and most of the developers feel like, okay, what I need to do now. For example, one other thing that I see a lot on the market, most of the engineers prefer to use a Git IDA, for example. Could I say that? IDA is not
I
kind
think,
of
yeah.
IDA, is more kind of
ID.
interface that we have, right? Because you can use the common terminal and you have the entire power of the Git on your hand, or you should be used to use the interface that they provide. For example, I think we have the Git Kraken, sorry, we have the Git interface, but personally, I prefer to use the terminal, because I have the entire control of what I'm doing, what I need to do. And like Amex, I tried for a little bit, but I'm not used to forward with it because as a front end developer, as a mobile engineer, it's pretty hard for me to see what I'm doing. This is why I
Yeah.
forward with the Emacs. But when I was learning Go and Lisp, I use it a little bit. So that's nice that you mentioned that.
Yeah. So I, man, being honest, I don't think I remember more than 2 commands on Git. I usually use the magit, which is the an interface that people built inside Emacs for Git. But also a point that I said about like extensible software that we should kind of aim for it is because as everything is accessible with code in Emacs, even the interface people built, I have some things that I don't know how I would do on the CLI, like as good as it is, which is basically before I commit something, I made basically a small code there that does it. So before committing a file, I iterate over the file names of the changed files, and I basically clean up all the white spaces that are there, like trailing white spaces that are useless.
Awesome.
And so I, through Emacs, I'm able to get the file names, go through each of them, clean up the white spaces, and then commit. It just goes. It's just composable, right? It's just a function that goes in the middle of the process. And well, not saying this is for everyone. I think it's not something that people care about most of the time. But if you're building the software that people will use, I think it's something that you should think about how people can extend these and basically use the software longer than I don't know, than I live, right?
It's the scout rule, right? Clean before you go.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a good path you can follow to actually reach to the point of building software that kind of is like Emacs, like the Git CLI, uh, I don't know, whatever else, like a shell script, because they all share uh, the same properties. They are all interactive. You can play with it like live. Uh, the Git CLI, you can just type the commands on the terminal and you see the things working and the outputs, and you work with the outputs there. And they are extensible. You can just basically pipe the commands for whatever you want and however you want. And I think this is not really important because this is mostly a implementation detail, but they are usually written in language that last long, right? They are specified. Git is written in C with a subset of C that is specified. Emacs is written in eLisp, which is also specified. You have other software, even Pendoc, which is the one that people use to convert PDF to Markdown to PDF, and whatever you want, is also done like this. It implements some specified formats like Markdown, PDFs, and all of that on a specified language, which is Haskell, and also allows you to extend with Lua, so you can have even more features there. So I think that's a great way to think about software. Oh, that's sad that you have to go. Thank you for sharing the book.
Oh, no worries.
So,
Anytime.
I'm
Hey,
gonna post the
guys.
book link as well on the Discord chat. Let me get it. Go that fits your head.
all right.
And
So, yeah, that's a boring topic, to be honest. It's too technical, right? But I think it's the thing that I obsess the most throughout my life.
I like this approach that you have, Victor, of finding a project or an obsession and then learning from that. It happens to me sometimes with, it happens to me with languages usually. And you did use that for languages as well. Like you told us in the last time you joined us about you writing texts and then learning from writing. Did you find this approach like by chance? Like you were always a passionate person, like you find something that you're passionate about and then you obsess over that and then learn from that? Like how did you find this pattern?
Um, I don't know, to be really. I think that most of the time that I spent like writing about things I like is more of an exercise, because you don't want to sound dumb writing something that people can read, right? So you basically kind of force yourself to read more about it before you publish. So I think that's a good way to exercise your knowledge, right? But regarding the obsessions, they I don't know, they just appear, and fortunately, it's always something really accessible. I think some months ago, I had something about reading the Postgres manual, and I just went through it for hours and hours and hours.
What
You
And
manual?
read the whole thing?
well, the whole thing it's a lot, but
Ginormous. It's like a
yeah,
work of a whole year.
yeah. But I went like to half of it or something. So, and you just, man, just write it down. For instance, I didn't know how PG Bouncer, which is the thing that handles the multiple connections to in sessions to Postgres, worked. So I said, okay, I'm going to write about what I find out, but I don't know anything. So I might as well just start reading. And then when there's something that uh, you kind of read, but the I think it's kind of harmful to us that we know.
Whoa.
Someone dropped him.
Maybe power
He's,
outage.
he's
There he
talking
Hey
goes.
to
guys,
He's back.
like
Hello?
revealing private information about this manual, and then it was detected.
the Postgres guys got him.
Hey, no one's
So
supposed to read the manual. What the fuck is it? There's secret information in there. Like we put it there because no one reads it. Like, and
yeah.
then they.
So I was saying that I think it's kind of harmful that we usually take things for granted, because there are things that you just know it's right, but you don't know why. But you know it's right. You just don't know the reason for it. And that, I think that when you reach this, it's the time that you should write about it on the why. And then because it will force you to go into it and actually know why that's right and the other things wrong. And this can be an obsession that's easy to turn into an obsession.
Cool. So Vic, everyone's starting to leave. This is getting a bit
Yeah.
late. It was great to have you with us, and you're welcome to come whenever you want. Okay. Let's take a
Right.
picture.
I have a free pass into the groups.
Oh, there's a thing right there.
There's a sign.
There we go.
Very good.
All right.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you,
everyone.
Victor.
Enjoy the rest of your
Alright.
Friday. And I see you guys on Monday. And so, do you want to say something?
I was just gonna say thank you for the talk, Victor, and hope you guys get to enjoy your weekend, and we'll see each other on Monday.